The primaries and runoffs are behind us, and with Labor Day weekend here, the 2018 election season now moves into high gear. This week, voters made their final selections for their party's nominees. Several House incumbents were given their walking papers, while a self-described outsider survived the Republican primary runoff to face a well-established political name in the race for governor.
We did it!
It was a jubilant crowd that greeted Kevin Stitt in Tulsa Tuesday night as he celebrated his victory over Mick Cornett in the runoff for the Republican Party's nomination for governor. Stitt, who has never held political office before, played up his status as an outsider in politics.
You know, this victory is not about Republicans or Democrats or rural versus urban. Tonight's victory is about Oklahomans ending politics as usual and the status quo that has left our state in last place.
Stitt will face Democratic nominee Drew Edmondson and Libertarian candidate Chris Powell on November 6th for the chance to become the state's chief executive. After the results became official, Edmondson, who did not face a runoff opponent, released a statement congratulating Stitt on winning his party's nomination, but also making a veiled reference tying Stitt to Governor Mary Fallin, saying, quote, "We can't afford 4 more years of the same flawed policies and misguided schemes that have pulled us to the bottom in so many important areas like education, health care, and mental health." That's expected to be the general theme of the governor's race, with Edmondson painting his Republican opponent as Fallin light, while Stitt portrays Edmondson as an advocate for bigger government and higher taxes. University of Central Oklahoma political science professor John Wood says Stitt will try to appeal to voters who've become disenchanted with those they believe are professional politicians.
They're tired of government in a lot of ways, and Mick Cornett was part of government, so I think the Republican Party was just, they're kind of trying to put a check on those folks who had the government experience. And they saw Trump, and Trump is an outsider. And so I think Stitt became very attractive to those folks as an outsider.
Whether that works in the general election remains to be seen.
Edmondson does pretty well in the Real Clear Politics poll, the Sooner poll. I think it's an RCS poll. He beats Stitt every time by about 1%. Now that's within the margin of error, so really it's hard to say, but you can see that it's going to be a dogfight.
Bill Shepard with Sooner Poll agrees the polling done within the last month shows a slight edge for Edmondson.
Drew Edmondson trailed Mick Cornett by about 6 points, but was a point ahead or within the margin of error with Kevin Stitt. So it actually showed that in a general election matchup, more voters actually preferred Drew Edmondson over Kevin Stitt.
Starts right here.
With the runoffs over, Wood expects the campaigns to become very aggressive in getting out their messages.
Our kids are the future.
I wouldn't be surprised if potentially advertising gets really heated on the governor level.
In fact, the day after the runoffs, a dark money group, Foundation for Economic Prosperity, released an attack ad claiming Edmondson would take a wrecking ball to Oklahoma's economy.
His plan to bust Oklahoma's economy will be a disaster.
Edmondson quickly responded, saying he was not surprised by the attack, adding, "Oklahomans are tired of the negative campaigning, they're tired of the chaos, and they're ready to elect leaders with clear plans to fund education." Education is likely to be a major issue in the race. While Edmondson was often seen with teachers during the walkout last April, Stitt has said he would not have signed the tax increase bill had he been governor. That could be an issue for voters. 6 of 7 Republican House members who voted against the bill to fund teacher pay raises were defeated in Tuesday's runoff.
I think they were all targeted by teachers in the state, and people are pro-education in the state, basically for their views on education and what their views were at the Capitol. I mean, some of those reps who lost were actually pretty nasty to the teachers when they were at the Capitol, and I think the teachers remembered that.
Shepard thinks that trend will continue through the general election in November.
Democrats are also going to be much more enthusiastic much more able to message on education, better than Republicans, and we think that this will have quite an impact on election night as to who controls the House and Senate. Not that Republicans will necessarily lose the House or the Senate, but their numbers will be trimmed back.